Hello YouTubers and welcome to another episode of the vlogs. As you can tell, still getting lighter. I'm not really looking forward to the clocks going black when we're plunged into darkness for a short period of time, but like I've been saying for the past what seems like year, we're gonna get to summer eventually. But feeling a little bit tired today, not the mind, not the head, but the body. So today we're talking about overtraining and the dreaded overtraining and what you can do to avoid it, what you can do to get it if you want to, but the signs and the things you can do that are not great. But we're here at the gym this morning to do gym stuff, so let's do that gym stuff. Oh yeah. Have a great day. Thanks. Whoa! And we've made it outside of the gym post-gym session. And just a little bit of variance, because remember, variation is one of the keys to motivation, but just working out just different shots, seeing what can be done. But we're talking about overtraining, and one way to avoid overtraining, or to make sure to limit the chances of overtraining, is to make sure you are fueled correctly, which we'll talk about post-fueling up, because remember, food is fuel and we have to fuel up after any session, regardless of if you're thinking you're overtrained or not. So let's get to some fuel, oh yeah! And we've finished making the fuel. Some delicious egg and rice today instead of on the meat grind. But fueling is very important for training, because remember, food is fuel. But also, speaking about overtraining, it is very important, because how can you expect your body to recover and repair itself if you don't have enough fuel, if you don't have enough food for it to do so? And that's sort of the huge part of overtraining. Some people consider overtraining is just under eating or under fueling, which yes, it can be a massive part of it, because that can lead you down the path of overtraining where you're not able to recover quick enough because you've got no fuel to recover from, and then you end up going to the next session and the next session and the next session, and it snowballs out of control and you're under recovered for everything, and you end up digging yourself into a hole that you can't get out of. So making sure you fuel up enough is a massive part of making sure you reduce the likelihood of overtraining. And for me, that's just eating a lot of food. And like I've mentioned in a few videos this year, I'm trying to eat sort of a kilo or more of rice per day. And as the volume's actually increasing, it means I have to increase that as well. As, like, for example, if I'm doing 50k in a day, that's purely on the erg, that's burning about 2,500 to 3,000 calories, plus the weight session, plus my normal body burning calories. You're very high. Plus I'm trying to gain some size and strength, and so I need to make sure my body is in a surplus, so it's getting all the fuel it needs. But again, that kind of goes into an individual side of things, fueling wise and limit wise, amount wise, but regardless, fuel is very, very important. So I'm going to continue to fuel up, and then we're going to walk the puppies. Oh yeah! And we've made it outside, walking the puppies. Yam's very into this one, isn't that right, Yam? Yes, give me. And now he's made my jacket absolutely fantastically dirty. But overtraining isn't just a case of not fueling enough. There can be other things as well, but generally it is when you have done too much and your body isn't either used to it or ready for it. So a big thing about making sure you're able to handle volume and not get overtrained is building into what you are doing, building into the training. So say you want to do 10k a day, you can't just go from 0k a day. This is all related to rowing machine, but it can be any sort of activity. You can't just go from 0k a day to 10k a day. You have to be able to try and 0k. It doesn't necessarily have to go 500 meters, 1k, 2k, 2.5k, 3k a day, but if you can go that slowly, it will very much help you be able to maintain the training over a consistent period of time, or over a long period of time consistently, rather than 0 to 10k and then you do 10k for a week and blow your doors off and then feel really tired. But with everyone as well, their tolerances can vary. So some people may be able to go 0k to 5k to 10k over a couple of weeks. Some people might have to take 2 or 3 weeks more. And so it's really an individual thing, and really having to be able to listen to your body and think, okay, am I especially tired? Can I manage this next session, or can I train today? Do I have things going on outside of training that will add stress to my life and maybe make things more difficult? Is the gym really hot that'll make the session harder than normal and then make you more tired and then put stress on other parts of your life? But it is really important to make sure you really focus on you and not necessarily, so I might have done 50k a day last week and this week we'll have, I think it's a bit more than 50, but that doesn't mean you should do 50. You might be able to do 100, you might be able to do 5. It's all up to your sort of ability. And now we're going to head in after walking the puppies, making sure they get rid of their energy too, make sure they get their training in, because it's very important for them to be exercised and be active too. But again, making sure they build up on their exercise. They can't just go on 5-hour walks straight away, because that will lead to possibly injury too. But after recovery, we've got another session to go on the rowing machine, and it's a lovely steady 90 minutes with the low intensity, which we'll be talking about post rowing machine, the intensities of your training and the sort of what I've went through with overtraining and how that might be able to help you. So we're going to finish this walk and get some recovery in all you. And we've made it into the cave where the yam happens here in the UK. But now it is time for a steady workout after some lovely recovery. So on the schedule is 90 minutes, so that's what we will be doing at a UT2. I've got my heart rate monitor on, be roughly 130-ish, maybe a little bit lower, a little bit higher heart rate through the entire thing for the average, to make sure I'm sticking in my proper heart rate zones to keep the intensity, which is very important for keep making sure you're keeping the balance with overtraining. But we've got our Star Trek on the big TV here. You know, like I said, I'll talk about the intensity and talk about kind of my experiences with overtraining post this session. Oh yeah. And we have made it to another 90 minutes on the rowing machine in the Yam Cave. Let's just check the heart rate here. So a little bit low, 122 from a max of 132. Felt very comfortable and even didn't have to shift around too much. But we're talking about intensity. We're talking about my experiences with overtraining. Well, intensity is very, very, very important when it comes to training in general, but also when you're thinking or making a program that you think maybe I might be overtrained. If you're doing the proper intensities, if you're building up through those intensities, if you're building through the volume, then your body should be able to handle it. If you're doing the proper intensity for you as an individual, then overtraining shouldn't really come into consideration, shouldn't really happen if it's right for you. The only real way for overtraining to happen, like I mentioned earlier, is under recovery, which is a big thing if, say, you're trying to do the sessions very close together and you can't recover between each session, or if you have multiple sessions at all. But if you don't have multiple sessions, it might just be a case of underfueling, and so not being able to recover between the sessions, or from, say, you go from one session to work, maybe you don't fuel enough, and then you end up getting very tired, very fatigued, and then maybe you're doing another session the next morning, but you don't fuel up correctly, and then again, it just goes into a spiral. And that's really what, at least with my non-expert opinion, remember, if you do feel like you're overtrained, if you do perhaps feel like over-fatigued, definitely speak to a doctor, speak to your coach, speak to someone, just to make sure that everyone's aware and you make sure you're okay. But overtraining is just that spiral. It can really just run away from you. Sometimes you think I'm fine, you think you're doing okay, and then all of a sudden tiredness becomes normal, and then you're actually over fatigued the whole time, and you think that when I was ill, when I was overtrained just before my surgery of removing my tonsils, looking back in hindsight, I was always tired, but not the case of I just finished a really good workout and I'm tired, I just need some food. It was a case of at all times I'd struggled to get out of bed. Not obviously, there's days when you just want to stay snuggled up, but just always. Sleeping was just, I wanted to nap and sleep all the time. I didn't really feel so hungry for the meals, and that's kind of my experience with overtraining. I can kind of tell the symptoms. Like this morning, one of the first things I said in today's episode was, I'm a bit tired today. And I said I was tired in the body, not in the head, and hopefully that made sense to some of you. But what I meant by that was, I can tell my fatigue level through experience that, okay, my body's tired because of training, I'm doing a lot of volume, I'm doing a lot of exercise, but my brain, so I woke up fine, I sprung out of bed, or at least tried to, I was awake on the drive to the gym this morning, rather than sometimes when you're overtrained, you get no awake time, you get no point during the day, or this is an extreme example, at least just before I had to stop training and recover, you get no point during the day where you're on it, you're awake, you're ready to go, unless there was time off, of probably weeks time off. And that is really the big sort of difficulty with overtraining, is it's really hard to tell the difference between overtraining and just you're tired from training. And this can expand to not just sports, and like I said earlier, doing sessions or even just any training any day. It can expand to just consistently doing something. You can it can lead into like people call it burnout as well. You can burn yourself out through just working really hard in anything, and whether it's mental or physical burnout or overtraining really just points more to the physical side of things, and burnout, I would say, more to the mental side of things. But hopefully that helps any of you. Let me know in the comments below what you think of today's episode, a little bit more of sort of sharing my experience. And if you do feel like you're like approaching overtraining, or you're overly tired, really try and reach out to someone. It could just be a case of, okay, I need to eat some more. It could just be a case of you're doing too much for yourself right now, and you could reduce the intensity or volume, and then you could step on from there. Or it could mean that you are overtrained and you need to take a step back and reassess. But as always, reaching out to someone, getting some advice from hopefully a professional, someone who knows what they're talking about, not just listening to me, is always helpful, especially if you can get multiple opinions. But that will be it for today's episode, Yamsquad. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We've got a couple of interesting things happening through this week. So today is it already Wednesday? Or is it Wednesday? I think it's Wednesday. I lose track of time, I lose track of days when there's so much exciting training going on. But for the rest of the week, I want to at least get one assessment of another 2K. So a lot of people have been suggesting, so I've done myself, I've done mine, and I did Alexander's at last weekend, and that's 2 males. So why not either go, so 2 heavyweight males, so why not go another way into female analysis of their ergs. There's one in particular I would like to look at, that I might actually look at with you as I record the video. And also there's another one, the lightweight male category at Worlds in Paris. Just some astonishing times at almost more than 30 kilos lighter than me, so absolutely outrageous times being thrown down there. So that's for future Yamsquad to look forward to, so remember to stay subscribed, or even if you aren't subscribed, subscribe for that. And hopefully you've already hit the subscribe button. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and I will see you in tomorrow's episode of the vlogs.